Hi guys, welcome back to A Page in the Chapter, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Paige. I like to read a lot of books and then talk about them here on this channel for you guys to hopefully enjoy. Today we are going through some books that I think that you will have never heard of before. And if you have heard of them, then shh, no you haven't. I did a video kind of similar to this when my channel was like first getting going, when I first started posting videos, and I figured we can reuse the video now that I have a bigger audience. There are different books in this video, however, to the last one, so I'm not completely just reusing a video, just the concept. If you guys like the sound of this video and you want to see more book recommendations, then I have a whole playlist full of reading recommendations for you guys to go and check out, and you could, you know, maybe click that big red subscribe button down below and stick around for future content. Not to like bribe you or anything, but it is my birthday tomorrow, Thursday, the day after you are watching this video, so maybe you could subscribe as a birthday present to me. Maybe that could be a nice thing to do. Also, if you are interested, you can reach out to me on Instagram or Twitter. I am pretty active on those, and it is probably the easiest place to get involved in the content on my channel and have a little bit more control over it and what I'm reading, etc, etc. I'm really enjoying being in this bookish community, so if you want to follow me on there, feel free to. I have quite the collection of books in this list. There's some YA, there's some non-fiction, there's some adult books. Like, it's a little bit all over the place. This is not a themed reading recommendations, other than the fact that I haven't seen anyone else ever talk about these books. Let's get into it. So the first book that I would like to talk about is The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. I feel like this would be a massive booktube book, but I've never seen anyone talk about it, so I'm gonna do it. So The Bloody Chamber is a collection of short stories that are all like modern gothic feminist tales, and they are also all reimaginings of classic fairy tales. So this book really set out to do a lot, and it does it all quite well, I would say. What I particularly love about this book is that it really does trace those classic gothic elements and themes and really manages to infuse them into classic fairy tales, but in a feminist way. The gothic genre tends to focus a lot on themes of sexuality and women discovering their sexuality and thus becoming progressive women in the Victorian era. That is kind of the whole premise of the gothic genre. So it works really well in a feminist context, which is what Angela Carter kind of sets out to do. And this is just really fun, and these are all really interesting. There's actually quite a nice array of different fairy tales in this book. Like, Angela Carter has managed to come up with a retelling of Puss in Boots, which I've never seen anyone do. I would highly recommend checking this out. It's really fun and easy to annotate if you want to get into like annotating your books or whatever. I have nothing bad to say about this book. The next book on this list is honestly one of my new favourites. I have a reading vlog coming on Friday where I read this book, and so you can kind of see, you can watch me fall in love with it. And this book is Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me. Very Heartstopper vibes, but even more of a graphic novel, I would say. And this essentially follows our main character, Freddie, and she is in love with this girl called Laura Dean. But every single public holiday, Laura Dean keeps breaking up with Freddie. This book takes place after the most recent breakup, and it is about Freddie learning how to get over Laura Dean, learning that she deserves better than the way Laura Dean is treating her, learning that she's being a really crappy friend by being so consumed by this on-again, off-again relationship. I just found this to be a super sweet coming-of-age graphic novel. I absolutely loved the fact that it was sapphic. I wasn't sure that it was going in, and I was so happy to find out that it was. The art style of this graphic novel is absolutely beautiful. Like, it's all black, white and like baby pink themed. This has been featured on my Bookstagram so many times because I just think it's the most beautiful book. I honestly do not know how I came across this book, how I found it, but I haven't seen anyone talking about it, so I'm going to recommend it. And if you guys have read this and you know of any other graphic novels that are kind of similar to this, or any other good contemporary graphic novels, please leave your recommendations down below because I want them all. The next book that I would like to talk about is Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry. If you like Morgan Matson books, you need to read this. Like, it is just chef's kiss. So particularly if your favourite Morgan Matson book is Since You've Been Gone, then this is for you, because this kind of follows a very similar premise. This is about our main character, and she makes private lists in her personal journal, and these lists are all things like things that I regret most, the worst things I've ever done, those kind of lists. And one day her journal goes missing and someone starts blackmailing her to do all of the things on her to do before I graduate list, otherwise they're gonna expose all of her secrets from this journal, which leads her on an adventure with the guy that she blames for her journal going missing. And what I really loved about this book that I couldn't have gotten from any other book with this kind of plotline is that it's very much about our main character coming to terms with her black identity in a very white middle class America. She goes to like a white private school, everyone she knows is getting into Ivy League schools. She's like one of the only black people in her cohort. It's about her coming to terms with the fact that she really shouldn't have to pretend to be white and that she needs to stop doing it, and if she accepts her black identity then she's going to be a lot happier and more comfortable in her own skin. And I just thought this was a beautiful element to include in a YA contemporary. Our main character struggles with race and identity were handled in such a light way that I really appreciated. Like when I go to YA contemporary, I don't want something like hard hitting and deep. That's not why I read YA contemporary. I know lots of people like that, I just don't. So I really appreciated getting to learn something about the experience of race in quite a light-hearted fashion. I hope I've explained that in a good way. I have spoken about this book before, but you still may not have heard of it, you may not have seen those videos. I don't see people talking about this book, and that is Again by E.Lockhart. Everyone talks about We Were Liars by E.Lockhart. I know that's had like a massive resurgence in popularity, I'm guessing because of TikTok, but no one talks about E.Lockhart's like other books, and particularly Again. So essentially, Again is the Midnight Library's YA younger sister. It is another book with like alternate timelines and a kind of confusing writing style, tracing out different endings to a relationship through different situations, except this book is much more YA romance based than The Midnight Library is. This book is written in a kind of confusing way, so I can see why it has a fairly low average on Goodreads, but I was so pleasantly surprised by this book. I absolutely adored it. I loved the ambiguity of the way it was written. I loved that you didn't ever really know what was real or what wasn't real. I thought that was an intentional choice that just added to the whole experience of reading in multiple timelines. So maybe go into it being aware that you may be confused, and it does have a very ambiguous ending, so if you don't like those, this may annoy you, but I just thought it was handled so perfectly and I loved it. Next we have a fantasy dystopian kind of book which is called Secrets of the Star-Crossed. I received an ARC of this through NetGalley, and this is honestly one of the few books that I've read on NetGalley that I've actually given a high rating and would go out and buy the sequel. So this is a dystopian book that imagines a world where the Roman Empire never fell and what that world would look like. And it's this kind of star-crossed lovers romance set in this Roman modernity, and these intersections between history and modernity were just so clever. I loved how the author managed to do that. There's also just so much world building in this book, and it's so clever. Our author has created an entire alternate history for the purpose of this book, and I respect that so much. And the penultimate book on this list is If I Could Tell You Just One Thing. This is another book that I mentioned when I was just getting started on my channel, but I'm going to mention it again now because I don't think many people would have read that or seen that video. This is a collection of interviews and advice that our author Richard Reed has collected from a variety of famous people through interviewing them throughout his career. This book just passes all of the vibe checks. It is top tier. To just give you a list of the people that have shared their advice in this book: Margaret Atwood, Bill Clinton, Dame Judi Dench, Annie Lennox, David Attenborough, James Corden, Joanna Lumley, Richard Branson, Stephen Fry, Bear Grylls, Olivia Colman, Nicola Sturgeon. Like, there's so many interesting people in this book. Like, obviously some of these people are quite political people, whether you agree with their politics or how they live their lives or not, but it's still interesting to like read their advice and read how they came to be so successful and what they've learned through their lives. Like, everyone has something that they've learned that they can share with the world. I want to share this book with absolutely everyone that I know. It's one of my favourite non-fictions ever, and I just think you should all read it. Finally, you may have heard of this book because I think this was going around on BookTube in like 2012, but I bet you've forgotten about it, and that is of Poseidon. This is like a YA mermaid book that I remember everyone like reading or at least buying back in the day, but I've never seen anyone talk about it since. It hasn't had its resurgence. I don't know anyone in my current friends who have read this, so I'm bringing it back. So essentially the plot of this book is that Galen has been sent to land, to Earth, to try and track down a girl that is believed to have the power to talk to fish, and they need this power for something basically. And then we have Emma, who is on vacation with her mum at the beach, and these two meet and it leads to a whole life-changing array of events. It's like a fish out of water story kind of thing. It's, you know, very 2012 YA fantasy kind of book, and I'm here for it. I want a resurgence in these kind of books. I think they are so fun, and mermaids don't really get included in literature a lot of the time. They're not really talked about that much. I know we had To Kill a Kingdom, which was kind of mermaidy, but that was more sirens, and she wasn't a siren for a lot of the book. So really, they haven't had their time of day yet, and so if you want a YA mermaid book, I recommend the Of Poseidon trilogy. I have not finished it. I own the first and the last book, and I could never track down the middle book in England, so I've just never finished it, and I need to, and if I remember rightly, this ends on a cliffhanger. But I do recommend this book. Thank you guys very much for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed these recommendations. I know they were slightly left field, and you may not be interested in them because you may have a big long list of books that you are hearing other people talk about, but I think it's always fun to like bring in some curveball books. If you enjoyed this video, why not hit that big red subscribe button down below and check out some of my other videos. There is an extremely fun video coming on Friday that is my favourite video I've ever filmed, and I'm going to be promoting the hell out of it, so you want to stay tuned for that and you don't want to miss that. Again, if you guys want to see more behind the scenes or control more of what I'm reading and what I'm filming about, do please follow me on my social medias. It is at Page in Chapter. It's just the easiest way to do that if you're interested. There's no pressure, just if you're interested. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed, and have a fantastic week of reading. I hope that you enjoy every book that you pick up, and I will see you on Friday for my next video. Bye guys.